being brave is the ability to confront a fear, something that makes you uncomfortable, something that you're probably not willing to do firsthand, especially when you're wrong. And reading this quote, it made me kind of reflect on the way that I react and my body reacts when I'm being stubborn. I know women can relate to this. When we're being stubborn, what do? We stand on our 2 feet and we cross our arms and we just shrug and make faces. Am I correct? Well, that's what I reflected on as I read this quote by Kipman. If God wanted us to be brave, why did he give us legs? And it's something very interesting to analyze as I reflected on the way that I stand when I'm stubborn. Being brave is being willing to, 1, forgive, which is I would like to talk to you guys today, and 2, to stand up against something that you're uncomfortable with. So, 1, to forgive. I know forgiveness is a big word, and sometimes it's easy to do, sometimes it's hard to do, and sometimes it's something that we overanalyze. Forgiving, personally, to me, is one of the hardest challenges that I've gone through in my whole life, even as an infant, as being in school, as a family member, as a friend, and as a girlfriend. As a family member, what can I say? I've gotten hit very hard in my emotions by many of my family members since I was in kindergarten. And it's really sad as a 5-year-old, which we are in kindergarten, to be hit hard by your family, people who you trust and people who you come to be comfortable with day by day when you're with them. And when you're hit by these emotions, by these people that you trust, it's really hard to forgive. But it's also a very wise decision to stand tall on those 2 legs that God has given us. To, stand back, stand tall, and stand up for something that you believe in. Although sometimes it's not necessarily something that you did wrong, but what they did to you, I think you come out being the better person at the end of the day when you forgive. And that's in my family, and it happened to me, and it's happened since I was 5 until the point that I am right now as a 21-year-old, And I think it's a challenge that we can all go through day by day until we are in our adulthood, and as we age until, whenever God is willing to give us as many years as we are able to live. I can also relate it to being a girlfriend, I've been in a relationship for 8 years, almost going on 9, and forgiveness has been one of the hardest challenges in my relationship. And I can say it's mutual for both of us, especially as a woman, like I said, we are very stubborn. And when you are being pointed out for things you do wrong, it's so hard for you to accept it and be like, no, I didn't do that, or I didn't say this, or whatever it is. But I think the first thing we need to do in order for us to show our courage as a woman is to accept it. Yeah, so once we accept that and we are willing to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation that we already know it is to start off with, it's easier for us to be forgiving to those who we love most. And I know it's likewise for men, I'm not just going to pick out at us women. For men, it's a little bit easier, I believe, from what I've seen personally. But it doesn't mean that you guys aren't allowed to show those emotions just as much as we women are, right? So in conclusion, I've talked to you guys about how bravery has given me the courage, or has given me the strength to stand tall on my 2 feet that God has given me, and that it's a wise decision to be brave and to not let being uncomfortable get to your head. Thank
Well, you've got a nice personal demonstration kind of definition at the beginning of what you think bravery means, and you tie it into the topic reasonably well. I do think that there might be a little bit of disconnect between the topic, how you develop it, and what the point of the quote was, but you know what, it's your speech, and I thought you did a reasonable job on it, so it's not a problem for me. I thought you had a very good preview of what the supporting structure was going to be. The content is nicely developed, although I think we could use a few more details in a couple of spots. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell it is that your family did to you when you were a little kid that made you feel like they needed to be forgiven. There's something that happened, but I don't know what it is, and so I'm left to have to kind of figure those things out and fill in the blank spaces, and who knows what the audience will come up with on those points. It was nicely organized, though, and easy to follow. Your voice, it's easy to hear you. You project reasonably. I did think that you had a nice, low-key but forceful way of speaking. I appreciated that. And it flowed together very smoothly. It sounded like you were confident and polished while you were speaking. I like that. Your gestures, you had some indicators early on. There was a nice visualization in the opening, in the kind of the attention device that you're showing us, you know, how a woman stands with her arms crossed and those sorts of things. So I did like that. There's a little bit of the hand grasping sort of thing, but it wasn't too distracting. You know, you do this thing, you know, when you're talking and you know, that sort of thing. And mostly that seems like it's an indicator rather than anxiety. It's not like you are washing your hands in front of us. It's just like you know, you got to figure out where to put your hands, and so it looked more natural than it did distracting. I wouldn't worry about that. Your facial expressions, you seemed animated for the most part and confident. I thought your eye contact was really sound from the beginning of the speech, and you did a pretty good job connecting with the audience. The thing that I thought was most effective was your body movement. You kind of stepped back at one point when you changed topics, and then stepped forward as you were talking about the topic to emphasize a particular point, and then moved over to the side a little bit to kind of talk about a different issue. So your movement seemed not random, but they were connected to the way you were talking about the subject, and I thought that came across very effectively. The summary was also solid at the end of the speech, too. Thank you.